Welcome to the Perfect 100, the podcast for BNI members who want to maximize their membership, deepen their impact, and grow their business through intentional networking. I'm your host, Tammy Zurak, a CliftonStrengths coach, longtime BNI leader, and one of the few members worldwide to maintain a perfect Power of One score. Each week, we'll explore the habits, mindsets, and everyday strategies of BNI members who are turning their membership into momentum. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect 100. I am excited today to have I don't know if maybe you are the longest running chapter success coach slash you were in part of the franchise director consultant in the region, but somebody I've known for a very long time as our guest. I want to welcome Michael Ann Dillinger. Hi, Michael Ann.
Hey, Tammy.
How are you today?
Oh, it's a busy BNI day, but I love it.
Yes, we've been talking all things BNI. We've both been to multiple chapters and all the one-to-ones, everything BNI today. So give us a little bit more. Tell us what chapter you're in, how long you have been in BNI altogether, and what is the seat that you hold.
BNI DeSoto, and I am the only original member to the chapter. I've been around the whole 14 and a half-ish years. I think we're about 6 months away from our 15th anniversary, and I've been with the chapter since day one. And my role in the chapter is I'm one of the not the coordinator, but I'm one of the ones that mentors the new people when they come in, as well as a chapter success coach with 4 different chapters.
Awesome. Yeah. So you've got your hands full there, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit here, but we'll start off with your best 45 seconds. So go ahead and tell us what you do.
Hi, I'm Michael Ann Dillinger with TruAura Beauty. TruAura is a line of skincare products that are very clean. They are microbiome friendly and they contain pre and probiotics. We do have a line of body care as well, and I specialize in customer appreciation services. So I'm looking for people that they're in their truck all day, they don't have time to do follow-up, or they just really want to up that customer experience. So what they can do is send me to their customers with a gift, which is how I get paid because they purchased the gift. And then I just do follow up like, hey, I have a gift for you. Tell me about your experience. Have you had a chance to do a Google review? So I take my products and make them into gifts. And I use that through a customer service program that I work with many other businesses in and out of BNI.
Awesome. Yeah, you've kind of putting a spin on what you do as a multi-level marketer, or I forget what the other thing that we were calling it is. Direct sales. Yes, in the direct sales realm, you're doing something unique with what you do, which we can maybe talk a little bit more about later. But first, I want to start with, because you've been a chapter success coach or a director consultant, this area has been both franchise and company owned, so 2 different titles, same role essentially. And I actually had the pleasure of bringing Michael Ann back into the fold because she was a director consultant of the franchise, and then the franchise sold to the company-owned region. I was for a little while their managing director, and I asked Michael Ann to come back on the team because I knew she had a lot of value to add. So I'm so happy to have brought you back into the fold because you offer so many wonderful things, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So you have coached a lot of people in a lot of chapters. Talk to me about the habits that you see that have been successful for people, because you've touched lots of different kinds of industries and all the things, and your strong suits, which we'll get to in a little while in terms of your strengths, naturally find those things and bring them out. So give me some of the habits you've seen make people successful in BNI.
Well, I think the biggest one is consistency with all of the things. BNI can be overwhelming, especially when you're new. But if you're just consistent with the things that are asked, like, for example, the Power of One, where you have the one on the attendance, one on the referrals, but you have to kind of train yourself to look for those things. So just taking time out of your week every week to be intentional about BNI and being consistent, it pays off. It really pays off to be consistent.
Okay. And what are the things you think most hold people back?
I think people hesitate because of the time commitment, but I think what they don't realize is people think about, I have my business and then I have BNI, and I have to do my business first. Then if I have time, I have BNI. But when you have a mind shift and you realize BNI is part of your business, we are the marketing team. So if you have 30 people in your chapter, it's like you have a 30-person sales team that's out and about working for you each week. So I think people that realize that make BNI a priority and they have much more success. So instead of thinking about BNI as if I get to it, I'll do my BNI stuff. No, make it a priority because BNI is very much part of your business.
For sure. Yeah. I love that you said that. I think that for whatever the reason, and I think maybe the reason is us, we don't give on the front end enough, what's the right words? Coaching.
Expectations, setting the
Right, yeah.
expectation.
We don't when we're interviewing people, it could start as soon as that, right? As we could say, look, and I think we do in some chapters say, look, it's a time commitment, right? Is you need to be here for the meeting, you need to do one-to-ones, etc. But I think it almost is a mindset shift that we could start at that phase to say, talk to me about how you're marketing now. What is your say, what are your sales like prospecting? What does that look like? Because this is that, right? Is this becomes your, if you could hire a team of people to market and sell for your business, that's what we are in BNI, right? And if we could just say to people, how can we, what amount of time, what amount of time would be worth getting somebody else to do all this work for you and bring you business? Maybe that would help impact how we move things forward. Would you agree?
Right. I do agree. And I think too, people come in, and this is natural, they come in thinking about what they're going to receive from BNI. And they realize like givers gain isn't just a philosophy, like that truly is, it's true. It is a truth. When you are a giver, you will receive. And so once you kind of learn to be a team player and not just come with your handout every week, but come with what you can bring every week, then things begin to change and you really get a better grasp on how BNI works.
Yeah, and I think it's you almost even need. I was at a chapter this morning where someone was brand new. They're new, just opened a new business, and we asked them to speak about their business, and he wasn't really sure what to say. And he came up to me afterwards, and he heard I was a business coach, so he said, "Can I get your card?" Which was wonderful. That's what we want. But he felt like a fish out of water a little bit because he had no idea what we do, right? And he stood up when we go back around the room a second time and talk about what we've given to each other. And he said, I'm just looking for, leads. And it's because he's never been to BNI before. He doesn't understand the concept. And I don't know how he got into the room, but if we can coach our visitors a little bit and say, this is what we do, and this is how this is going to go, because that would maybe be a little less embarrassing for folks if they understood kind of the concept and that we're here to support each other and so on, and make those easier moments for people as they're coming in, and then they kind of see how it all works because we kind of talk about it, right? The meeting is really designed for visitors, and I don't know that everybody recognizes that, and we make it's actually part of, if you guys wherever you are in the world in BNI are doing the passport program speaks to that. One of the things so in the booklet there are all the different positions, and I've been a president, and one of the things that the president, there's a sheet that goes with each of the positions that we're supposed to be educating our new members on. And one of the things that the president talks about is why we do the things we do in the meeting. And each thing serves a purpose. And we don't say the same things over and over again for the members. We know those things, right? But we're saying them for people who are visiting in the room. And if we have a good chapter, we should have lots of visitors because that's what we do, right? Join the Art Academy in Memphis. Master the skills needed to create stunning, realistic oil paintings. With expert instruction, you'll refine your craft. Enroll today at artacademyofmemphis.com. I thought it was super interesting today at my meeting. I was sitting next to a visitor, and we use table tents that have our names on them, but we also, for visitors, all of them have on the front side your name, or it says visitor, and on the back side it has the agenda, and it's I think it's 26 points agenda. And she actually elbowed me, and she was like, or the education coordinator was up talking about their piece, and she said, she pointed out the feature presentation and she said, "Is that where we are right here?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting," because I didn't really even think about it because, it's just by this point, it's like wallpaper or a picture on your wall at your house. You don't see it every day. You don't even like pay attention to it. But she, because she'd never been to a meeting before and didn't know anything about BNI, she was following it. So what I was saying about the passport is so for educating somebody coming in before they decide they want to join, the president is talking about the hidden elements in the meeting, and we're doing a meeting in large part for visitors that are coming to understand why it would be valuable for them. There's a lot of stuff that we say over and over again. It's not for us. We always hear it and we know about it already. It is for the new person who's never been there to understand what we're trying to do. So we're not having to we're getting the right people, I guess is the right way. And we're setting up, it's just like in your own business, when you're selling something, everybody here is in sales. Even if you're not a salesperson, you're selling something in your business. Somebody is selling it for you. And there's a step process to get there. And the meeting is for us, the consultation, if you will. It's the way that we show members why it works. And that's why a lot of people have a struggle getting visitors, but what I say to visitors is, come and check it out. Don't give a lot of detail. You don't need to. The meeting sells itself. You've probably heard somebody say that, is the meeting is designed to help people understand why it works. So, that onboarding process is what the passport is. If you're not using the passport in your region, wherever you are, or your chapter, because our region uses it, but not all the chapters use the passport. But it is designed just like HR in a company, or if you hired new people in your business, you would give them hopefully an onboarding, and that's what that's meant to do. So hopefully it would make things better. What do you have to add to that, Michael Ann?
I do agree. And also, as far as visitors go, keep in mind, you're not inviting people to join, you're inviting them to visit. So if we off the bat start telling them all the requirements about membership, they haven't even agreed to come. And most people, it's always sad to me when someone decides not to come visit BNI because they're not interested in joining. So one thing I usually say when that's the response is I have found that it's easier to make a decision when you have all the facts. So we're just asking you to come check it out, come visit. If it's for you, great. We'll give you information about how to join. If it's not for you, you're going to get to meet some new contacts and you're going to get to learn a little bit about BNI and how we work. So even if someone asks me specific questions about, well, are there fees to join and what's required? I usually say, well, it's free to come visit, and we go over all that at the end. And it's just simply because you don't want to overwhelm people with information and then they'll make a decision, because many, many times, myself included, I went to a BNI meeting thinking there's no way I'm going to join this thing, but I might sell something that day. That was the mindset I went into my first BNI meeting with. And I saw what it was all about, and I saw the big picture right off the bat. And I'll tell you exactly what sold it for me. It was when DeSoto was forming, and the man who was starting the chapter he was doing accountability in the room. And he had everyone who had committed, he had their names on a chart. And he went around the room and asked them who all they had invited to the meeting that week. And right there, I was like, these are the people that I want to hang with, because these are people they're going to actually have to follow up, and they're going to have to we're held accountable, we're holding each other accountable. And so the accountability piece is what actually sold me. So I don't think we should ever shy back from that, but at the same time, that shouldn't be what we lead with, and even if someone comes and they don't join, they learn about BNI, and you never know who they may talk to about either some of us in the room and refer business to us, or to someone else who might want to join BNI. Maybe it wasn't a good fit for them, but they may know someone that they can send to us. So it's always good to have new people in the room. And, you just got to invite them. Just learn to do that in your path.
Yes. And speaking of accountability and charts, let's go to your Power of One, because that's both, right? It's a good segue. I'm up on the screen. I have Michael Ann is in the green at 80, and she's got 15 points for attendance. And looks like the only reason you didn't get the full points, there's no absences because you just had subs. And I know you've got some chapters that meet at the same time that you're the coach for, that also meet at the time that your chapter meets. So sometimes you have to make accommodations for that. Your referrals per week is 20 points in the green. Visitors per week are 5 points in the gray. 1-to-1s are 20 points in the green, and CEUs are green also at 20. What about that, if anything? What's the highlight there for you? What is the easiest thing and what's the hardest thing?
I mean, the visitors I typically do have, but summer is a little more challenging with vacation. And I actually had a visitor this morning to one of the chapters that I manage. So and honestly, inviting people for a specific date, hey, what are you doing this Thursday? Versus, is there a Thursday you can come visit? So when you're more specific with inviting, and if they can't come this week, what about next week? And just following up with people like that, like, hey, I'd love to introduce you to some people in the room. I'd love for you to meet them to meet you. So if you can come Thursday morning, I can introduce you to 30 people. So that's actually the easiest one, honestly, that and attendance, but that's the one I was lacking in. So,
Yeah.
but the
And that comes and
referrals,
goes.
yeah, the
Go ahead.
referrals tend to be, to me, a little harder than visitors. So if you think about it, there's X number of people in your chapter you can refer to, but it's unlimited on visitors. And I go to a lot of chamber events. I'm always inviting people at a chamber event. And matter of fact, about 2 months ago, I did a little vendor booth for a little fundraiser, and there weren't a lot of shoppers that day, and it was fine, and I really wasn't selling much at my booth. So I started talking to people about BNI. I think I invited 4 or 5 people to BNI that day, and one had already been to visit, and she ended up joining, not because of me. I just, in between her visiting and joining, I was able to encourage her to come back. And then we had another who came and visited, and he wants to join. He just can't do it right now. And so anyway, just wherever you are, just have it at the forefront of your mind, because I know I would never sell somebody something I didn't believe in. And you're exactly right. We sell even if we don't have a product. So when I'm talking to somebody about BNI, I'm not trying to sell them on something, but I know it works, and I've had success, and I have really small ticket items. Like if you look at my amount that I receive, it looks really small, but for what I do, it's actually very helpful. So it's like I've got the answer for them, and I know it's going to help and it's going to improve their business. So I'd be selfish if I didn't invite them to BNI. So yeah, to me, and I'll run into someone, I'll invite them, and then I'll run into them a couple months later, like, you still haven't come to BNI yet. You need to do that.
Well, and again, that kind of, we'll get to your strengths. I always say every episode, we'll get to your strengths, and that plays into them. But your strengths and mine are different. And I feel very passionate because I built my first business on it, that it works. So when I hear that somebody's trying to build a business, or they would like more clients, then I want to talk about it because it's worked, so I'm passionate about something that works well for people that run small businesses. I coach small businesses. So you mentioned the breakdown. Let's look at your PALMS report. And if you've watched in previous episodes, I've shown kind of all the weeks. This time I'm showing the summary because it's really the same. So this is 24 weeks. You had 19 presents, no absences, no lates. No medical managed, we're calling it managed now. And you had 4 subs. So again, that kind of rolls into no absences. And by the way, you can see on the Power of One there, 93% attendance. You're 100% attendance because you didn't miss a meeting, but because they're subs, there's a little bit of a ding for people. I don't think we've talked about this before, or maybe this is the first episode somebody's listening to, but because it's not you, it's not the same. So they give a little bit of a ding on the percentage point. So you're not going to get 100 if you've got subs. So just understand that's how that works. Referrals given inside 1, referrals given outside 24, referrals received inside 3, referrals received outside 13. So speak to me about that a little bit. You've got a lot of the outside the chapter, referrals given outside. Is that just by virtue of being a coach?
Guess so. I really have not looked at this. I don't have research to answer it. Probably so. I work with a lot of chapters and a lot of people, so that
Yeah.
might explain it. Well,
I know it.
inside is Well,
in your
right,
chapter.
right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, inside your chapter is RGOs outside the chapter, and sometimes, and I've mentioned this a number of times, but again, somebody might be listening to this for the first time. Is the app has if you're not tapping on one or the other, it might get recorded improperly. So just be mindful that
Gotcha.
if you don't switch it over to inside or outside, I can't remember. I think it defaults to. I can't remember which,
Okay, I
but
think I can explain it. So my understanding was different. My understanding was when I'm referring inside, I'm referring to myself, to someone in my chapter. When I'm referring outside, I'm referring someone outside of the chapter, like a friend or a family member, to someone in BNI, whether they're in my chapter or outside of my chapter. So I may have been recording that incorrectly, but that was my understanding of
you know what?
inside.
You may have given me something I don't actually know the answer to, and I'm gonna go and research that now. I feel like it's inside the chapter or outside the chapter, but you may be, and it may have switched also because of the franchise versus the company owned. I'm gonna go look it up, and I'll get back to you all
Right.
later.
Yeah. Because, for example, if I refer myself to you, then that's
Right.
inside. But if I refer a coworker to you, that's referral outside. So I
Yeah.
refer more other people to than myself because,
Yes, and
right, we're not in there
makes
to
sense.
sell to each other. We're there to send
Right.
each other business. That's how I explain the number, but I
Yes,
could be wrong.
yeah. We're gonna find out because I'm not entirely sure. But you know what? You bring up a really good point that should be brought up that we haven't talked about here is that you shouldn't be selling to your chapter. I hear a lot of commercials every week that where people are saying, they're addressing the people in the room needing whatever the product or service that they're trying to promote is. And it isn't, that's not what we do here. We're educating. Think about it. If these people all worked for your company, you wouldn't be selling yourself to them. You'd be teaching them how to market your business and sell to others. So that language is different than it is if we're selling to each other. So be mindful that you're educating people what to listen for and how to position you. So just as a side note there, so thanks for bringing that up. All right, and then visitors, you had two one-to-ones 38. Thank you for closed business given to others in your chapters, $23,275 and CEUs 37. So, and again, that was 24 weeks. So you're exceeding both in those one-to-ones and CEUs. So all things good. 80 is a great score. Anything in the green is good. So good job. And obviously you're teaching this to others. So do you feel like do these things come up when you're in the coaching conversations at all with the people that you're in chapters over, so to speak?
The things you're talking about.
Power of One, like Power of One and Palms Report, that kind of stuff.
Yes, and it's just a good reminder to go over it, with new members to make sure they know what the expectation is and just to find a way to track it. So I don't always remember, of course now we have the app and you can look, but I'm old school. I have a paper calendar. So a lot of times what I do, I try to get all of the 4 referrals a month and everything else in the CEUs, and they erase week after week on the app. So I actually just at the bottom of my calendar each month, I just kind of make a little hash mark. So whatever works for you, however you want to track it, if that's something you're aiming for, just have a way to keep up with it. And when you're intentional like that, I mean, you're going to get results.
Yeah, and now they didn't used to do this, but at least if you're in a company owned region, they send it right to everyone now. They didn't used to do that. It used to go through a couple layers of upper management, and maybe it got to you, maybe it didn't. So now you should be receiving it. At least in our region, we're getting it, monthly. So have a look at it. I know some people have never seen it before, which is funny to me because it's like it's your report card on yourself. For me, I kind of hold it in high value because it's what am I getting out of this? What am I doing? What am I getting out of it? And what am I putting into it? More importantly, if I'm not putting anything in, people always, not always, a lot of times people will get closer to the end of their whatever the year is that they're going to renew. And they're like, well, I didn't get that much. And the first place we all go is as coaches, we look at the Power of One or the Palms report to see what did you actually do. You're not going to get tons out if you don't put tons in. It's that equal measure. If I'm doing a lot of the work, or when I'm not. In the past, I've definitely have had some times where I had less activity and I feel it. I feel like things drop off, and that I'm doing tons of activity. Guess what? I get tons of opportunity. So it's weird. It works out that way, right? All right. So let's zoom back a little bit out of the kind of the numbers and stuff. What have you found the hardest part of consistently building your business? Now, because you're direct sales, have there been any hard parts about building through BNI, or are they easier parts? Give me more about that.
For me personally, I had to find a way to make what I do work for BNI. So I sell skincare, and for a long time I had a makeup line. Most of the people in my chapter are men. So it would be a hard sell for me to stand up and say, I'm looking for women that want to try makeup and have wrinkles, that want to look younger. And then I can't expect the men in my chapter to go find me a lead. So I started with the gifting, because men love to buy a gift, especially if I can take care of everything for them, whether it's Secretary's Day, or I have some neat things I do at Christmas time with the 12 Days of Christmas, which is a lot of fun. And then I ended up partnering with a plumber who started using me for customer appreciation and follow-up. So I took and I expanded that. I've been doing that for over 10 years. And that's been the way I promote myself in BNI, is through customer appreciation and follow-up. But then I'm able to use the products from my bath and body care line, which anybody can use, men or women. And that's the way I get my sales, is through that. And I offer that service at no charge. And there's so many people that can use that service. So then it opens it up. I can even do that through the mail. I have done follow-up calls and then mailed gifts to people. So I had to find a way, especially in the beginning. I've been in so long. Back when I first started, we still did in-home parties, which I can still do, but people have really gotten away from that.
Yeah,
That's a hard sell. Right. So you
COVID probably killed that, right?
yeah. So you go to BNI and you're like, I'm looking for people that want to have an in-home party, or want to do this, or want to do that. So I just had to think through, in BNI, if you're not getting referrals, it's on you. You either need to give people words to listen for, words to say, scenarios where they can refer you. And then one thing that I usually do when I do my weekly presentation is I'll hand out an index card at the beginning, and I'll have everyone to write their name on there. I don't do Q&A. If you do Q&A, you have to stop at like 8 minutes, and I just don't usually factor that in. So I tell them, if they have a question during my 10-minute, write it down. If they think of someone that they think might be interested in my product or service, just write their name down, and then I will schedule a one-to-one with them, and I will give them words to say to that specific person in that specific instance. So I think in BNI, you just have to find a way to explain and break down what you're doing. Like, you don't have to go through step by step. I'm not going to tell you step by step of like how products are made or any of that. I'm going to give you words to say and words to listen for. And if we can just train our people to do that, then it's easier to send and receive referrals.
I think that you have a unique, it's a little different, as a multi-level marketing and or direct sales type situation. It's a little more challenging. You're not allowed to talk about half your business is building through, well, and I know your model has changed a little bit because your company's model has changed a little bit, but a lot of the multi-level marketing people also are building a downline, and that's how that works. But we're not allowed to talk about that in BNI. So you found unique ways around that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I truly focus on just sales through BNI.
And for anyone that's listening that maybe is a higher level in the organization, I found, and I would love to get your feedback on this, is I found that people that do direct sales, when I was running kind of the whole area, I found that one of the reasons I reached out to Michael Ann is, well, A, I already knew her, but B, her work ethic and the way that she kind of builds her business is the same way she builds in BNI, and helps others. And she has, and we'll talk about her strengths in just a minute, but her strengths were wonderful for the kind of role as a chapter success support coach person. But I feel like, I've hired other people, and I've seen other people. We have almost half the team, if not more at this point, have that sort of direct sales background. Why do you think that's an asset in BNI at the coaching level?
Just taught to I mean, if it's to be, it's up to me. And especially those of us that started like before social media. I really don't use a lot of social media in my personal business because I grew up where you could call people on a landline and they would answer the phone. So I have, I think, great phone skills. I'm great one-to-one with people, and I'm just more about the relationship side of it because people can buy skincare anywhere, truly, especially online. But people come back to me. Number one, the skincare is great. But number two, I think the customer service, because we're just taught in direct sales to kind of make that experience different. And that's truly why a lot of people have come with me from one company to another, because they know I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to let them know when there's a sale. If there's an issue, I'm going to call the company. I'm going to remember what they use. I'm going to have a record of it. So just the little details about customer service, I think we're taught. And I think that may be one reason why.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's that if you're sustainable in a direct sales type of position, that means you're going to be helpful to others who are trying to grow, right? So you understand what it takes to build a business because it's a lot of heavy lifting that most people don't have to do in their business. It's a different type of, I've done cold calling. I have a whole sales, my entire background is sales and sales management, and it's just a different thing when you're not afraid to talk to people, right? And you're not afraid to hear no. Not everybody has that gene, so to speak. So, people, I think, sometimes shy away from people that are in their chapters for various reasons. And if they're newer in their business, that might be why, because maybe they haven't kind of figured out the nuances yet. But I think there's great, you have different skill sets than a lot of people do, so it's very helpful. And speaking of different skill sets, let's talk about your strengths, because your strengths are unique to you, and they are, having known you for as long as I have, which is got to be in the 10 plus years now, or 10-ish years on and off. Maybe a little bit of a hiatus there, but Michael Ann's in Mississippi and I'm in Tennessee, so we didn't always cross paths all the time, but certainly enough to know each other. And the strengths that you have, I'm going to go ahead and read. So Michael Ann's number one strength is woo. She loves the challenge of meeting new people and winning them over. She derives satisfaction from breaking the ice and making a connection, which you may have already heard already today, right? Number two is positivity. You have a contagious enthusiasm. You're upbeat and can get others excited about what they're going to do. Developer, you recognize and cultivate the potential in others. You spot the signs of each small improvement and derive satisfaction from evidence of progress. Number four is activator. You can make things happen by turning thoughts into action. You want to do things now rather than simply talk about them. And number five is communication. You generally find it easy to put your thoughts into words. You are a good conversationalist and presenter. All right. So this was your first time taking this. What did you think when you got your results?
I was really impressed because some of the questions ask you two things and they're both correct. And you had to pick. And I'm like, I want to pick both. One of them I was trying to decide and I waited too long and it went away. So let me just pick one next time. So I thought it was scarily accurate.
Staying ahead in a world driven by technology is key. At Wisdom Integrators, we don't just solve problems, we create opportunities. Wisdom Integrators, connecting your world, solving your problems.
Yeah, it's so funny because the reports, when you get them, do a breakdown and they intersperse your top five things together. So even if I don't have woo as number one, but let's just say I did, and I had other things that were different behind that, then my report will read differently. The first five are interspersed because those are your things you most use, the things you use most often. My woo is actually at the other end of things. So, but interestingly enough, we do the same role and we get things done. We just get them done through our strengths, right? So it is entirely up to you. But I always read through because it does take that breakdown and put all the top five things together. And it made me laugh. It says, it's very likely that you are open and honest about who you are, what you've done, what you can do, and what you cannot do. Which that was like to a T you. I mean, it might like that was like the epitome of all things I know about Michael Ann. And so it made me laugh because Michael Ann is very open about all the things she knows and all the things she doesn't. And she will, doesn't matter. We had some tech issues working with the podcast, and it's just things that happen. But she's the first one to tell you when things are that's not her forte, and what things are her forte. So I just love that was the first thing it said, and it made me laugh out loud when I read it. So when you looked at those things, what popped out to you the most? So what was which one of those strengths was your favorite that you thought, yep, that's me all the time?
Positivity, because no matter what happens, you can always find the bright side to it, I guess. Or, I mean, being positive is a habit and being negative is a habit. And if you just get in the habit of, well, yes, this happened, but this is going to be a result of that. And even looking through, like when you're going through a hard time, don't look at the issue in front of you. Look at, okay, when I get through this, this is where I'm going to be. And if you keep your eyes focused on the future and what you're working toward, then what's going on right now that might not be so great, it puts it into a little bit different perspective. It's just like if you hit a wall, don't stop. There's a way around it, over it, under it, or through it. You just have to figure out what works.
Yeah. So having sat with them maybe for a little bit, I know you took that not too awful long ago, but having had the chance to kind of think about it, have you thought any new ways about how it might apply to what you're doing either in your business or in BNI?
I think it maybe helps me as a problem solver. I'll see something and you've heard that story, not my circus, not my monkeys. It's like if I see a problem, like I just have this something inside me that makes me want to fix it. And I think that's just how I'm wired. Like I am just a problem solver. And so kind of seeing that, that may be why, because I want things to run smoothly. I want things to improve. I don't really have it in me to see something and to sit back and say, oh, well, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I sit on my hands not to talk because I know the answer. And I think that can be a fault too, because when I'm working with new people, I know exactly what they need to be doing. But it's not as effective to just tell people what to do. Sometimes you have to lead them to it, lead them through it, help them to realize it themselves so that they learn it. So it can be a negative as well. But yeah, so it was pretty accurate.
Yeah, and what you're referring to, at least how CliftonStrengths, how we call it, is a blind spot, right? Is sometimes it can be, if you don't share with people, this is me and this is why I operate this way, is sometimes it could be too much for people. And, and it's not that you mean it to be too much or it's not enough in whatever the situation is. If you speak to it to somebody, if you just met somebody, they're going to kind of get the experience, I guess, of, being in the room with you and have whatever everybody, we all are humans. We look at each other, we form opinions based on what we're looking at, hearing, seeing all of the activities. And some worlds we call that branding. It's you show up the way you show up, and people make assumptions based on those things, how you show up. But developer, I thought, was pretty spot on for you, because that's, you're looking for, I think, would you say that BNI is appealing to you for that reason, that you love to help people, kind of move forward? And, even in your business, would you say that's also kind of applicable?
Right, I think so. And I just had the experience of helping with a new chapter launch, which this is the second chapter I've helped with. And so to see them going from knowing very little about BNI to becoming a functional chapter, and we're still in the training phase and we're still learning and kind of getting everything going. But I find that really rewarding, to take a group of people that maybe 6 months ago didn't even know what BNI was, and now they're a functional chapter, and they're growing and flourishing, and they get it. So I really enjoyed that process.
Yeah, agreed. And we use the words "they get it," and we use that often. And as BNI coaches, that's like they get it or they don't get it, right? And the ones that don't get it, it's painful, because in what they don't get, varies vast. It's a wide chasm between what they get and what they don't get, and you're only hurting yourself in the world of you don't get it. And we all can see, well, not all of us, but a lot of us can see what's working and what isn't working. But I always want to direct people to look at your business and, compare your business to your chapter. Would things that happen in your chapter happen in your business? And if you're okay with them, great. If you're not okay with them, be part of the change. And I think that one of the things about developer is they like to stay with someone over time. So, again, I think that's great from a coaching perspective is you will stick with them even sometimes to a fault, that they're not going to move in that direction at some point. Do you have a hard time letting people go when they're not getting where they need to be getting?
I do. And I think one of my biggest faults is I'm not the greatest at holding people accountable. I can tell you all day long the benefits of it, the words to say, why, how. I can give you that all day long. But ultimately, it's up to that person to make that change. And I'm not the greatest at holding people accountable. So it's like I can train people up to a point, but then they got to pick it up and do it themselves. And
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, agreed. So if you were going to give somebody advice, because both of us been in referral building, it's relationship building basically is how you're building your BNI. What would be your advice for building stronger relationships? Because you're all about that. So what would be whether it's in your business or from BNI, what would be, a piece of advice you would give to somebody to build better relationships?
Well, definitely making time to do your one-to-ones, even if you stay after the meeting. If time's an issue, just plan it either before or after your meeting. And also go to their profile on the app and see what they've got filled out. If they haven't filled out that profile with their gains and their ideal client, encourage them to do that. And then also I think about who I'm going to be talking to. And if that, whatever business that person is in, I think through how could they refer me? And then I will kind of come up with, here's who you specifically can look for me. And then ask them, who can I look for you? So it's almost like every one-to-one I do is totally different. Because I've done 2 today and they were day and night because of the different industries that they were in. So
I love that you personalize that, and there's a forum, and I've mentioned on the previous ones, and it's on the BNI, the perfect100.com. If you're looking for podcasts, if you're looking for the form, it is on that website. But I have a very different approach. Is I fill out the sheet in depth and we go over that. But you're personalizing it based on the person, which that's great because you've taken the time to think about that. You're going to get a lot out of that, which is amazing. It's just 2 different approaches, which are all good. So what's something small but memorable that you have done in your business that helps people remember you more?
In my personal business?
Yeah, your business, yeah.
Oh,
or you could say BNI, but
making sure they know that I've got them. So if there's, whatever, like, for example, some of my customers have, auto ship, for lack of a better word. And even though they were reminded by me and by the company, they forgot to change their order and they ended up with something they didn't want, then I take it and swap it out. I just always make sure that customer is happy and I do whatever I need to do, and just remembering them and staying in touch. And then also asking people like, hey, how often would you like to be contacted? Do you want to be contacted? How do you want to be contacted? And then just kind of remembering the preferences. I think people appreciate that. I think people want to use my product and service, but I need to make it easy for them to do so.
Yeah, love that. That's perfect. And in the style of Stephen Bartlett, on his podcast, he asked the last guest to leave a question so that my last guest wrote a question for you. I'm going to ask you to do the same for the next one. But her question for you was, when attending networking events outside of BNI meetings, are you able to figure out that somebody that you didn't know before, like through the conversation that you're having, that they've been a BNI member?
Definitely. And one way is, it's funny, when I go to networking meetings, I kind of use the same principle. Like, I'm not there to sell, Most people in the room are there to sell. So I'm not there to sell. So what I typically do is I ask people if they've ever been to a BNI meeting, because I'm helping them grow their business. I'm not even telling them what I do. I'm being helpful to them. And so it's easy to find that out, because that's usually one of the things I ask at a networking meeting. So yeah, but yes. And when they have been to a meeting, I mean, they just automatically, oh yeah, it's like their face lights up. There's familiarity and there's that connection there.
Yeah, and you can almost feel a difference because they get it, right? They get it. So love that. All right. And then lastly, what are you excited about right now? What's coming up in your business that you're excited about that's new, in the future?
Well, I am just looking to kind of expand my customer appreciation and just working with that. And I did get a new lead today at a meeting this morning, so I'm going to follow up. I got several referrals from the meeting I went to today. So just those new customers that I haven't connected with and met with yet.
Okay, awesome. And I want to remind people, well, not remind them because they don't know about it, but tell people that you mentioned, and maybe you didn't because we were talking beforehand, but Michael Ann was on a podcast with Ivan Meisner where she talked in depth about how she kind of uniquely markets with trades and that. Do you remember your podcast number with Ivan?
It was podcast number 855.
Okay, so if you want to hear more about that, then go to podcast 855 on the BNI podcast. And thank you, Michael Ann. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
appreciate you. Before we wrap up, if you found today's conversation helpful to you, I would love that you go and hit the subscribe button. It will help other people find that information also that are in BNI when they're searching. It's on YouTube. So if you've had anything that sort of you were like, ooh, that was an aha moment, and maybe somebody else would benefit from that, would love that you would subscribe. And also on the CliftonStrengths side is knowing the information is great. But it's almost maybe like if I go to a fortune teller and they tell me my fortune, that I think that's fun. But if I got all the information that would be useful to me to apply, and which is what I do as a coach, love to help you do that. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will see you next time on The Perfect 100. Thanks for listening to The Perfect 100. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to show up differently in your chapter, share it with your team and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you're curious about your own CliftonStrengths and how to bring out the best in yourself or your chapter or your business, head to TammyZurak.com to learn more about building your superpowers into everything you do. Keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep building your perfect 100.